Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Virtual Open House. My name is Frank Lotto, and I'm a Associate Director of Admission here at Undergraduate Admission. For those of you, if this is your first session that you're tuning into, welcome. For those of you that are returning for your session, welcome back. We are so excited to conclude our Virtual Open House series with a really amazing department that we have on our campus here with Sociology and Criminology. So just kind of give you all a quick overview of what the next 30 minutes is going to look like, and we'll go ahead and dive into the presentation. So over the next 20 or so minutes, our guest speaker will be chatting with us, letting you know everything you need to know about the Department of Sociology and Criminology, as well as you'll have the capability of asking any questions utilizing the Q&A feature located at the bottom of your screen there. And then we'll have some time at the end to address any of your questions and do a live Q&A. I'll also be posting some reminders and some information in the chat section as well too for you to refer to as, and then we'll also be following up with an email with some additional resources and contact information. For those that also need closed captioning, that is also enabled at the bottom of your screen as well too. So with that, that's all the announcements I have for the evening. I'll be here to help support any way I can if you have any just general DU questions. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass things off to my colleague, Professor Lisa Pasco.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining this webinar on my Department of Sociology and Criminology at the University of Denver. My name is Lisa Pasco. I am chair of the department, and I am also a criminologist. I have been at DU since 2006, so I've been here a while. But before joining the faculty at DU, I was a criminologist in the field. I had worked for the Attorney General as well as Las Vegas Metro PD in my previous career. So I bring sort of real world experience as well as academic ones to the classroom. And many of our faculty do too. Let me just kind of start off this presentation by saying, why sociology and criminology? I know that a handful of you have already expressed interest in this major. Some of these are just some of the questions that sociologists and criminologists ask. We ask, what are the causes of delinquent and criminal behavior? And how can we best respond to people who have engaged in delinquent criminal behavior and especially violent behavior? How can we respond effectively? We look at why various inequalities, such as along gender, race, age, sexualities, disability exists. We also look at a sort of more micro level on the origins of the self and society, and look at issues around identity. And these are just some of the questions that we do. We have a more macro approach sometimes, looking at how institutions and systems work and understanding their foundations and the fractures in them and how to better improve them, or in some cases dismantle them. And in other times, we have a more micro level approach of just how and why do people get along or not get along, and understanding those interactions and group dynamics. So for anybody that's interested in the kind of human social systems as part of their liberal arts education, our BAs in sociology, and if you're particularly interested in criminal justice, crime, law, and how we respond to crime, such as corrections, then a criminology degree. This is kind of a perfect place for you. And then also what we teach you in our department are major requirements around theory and methods, as well as the various electives you can take, prepare you for careers in law or social work or policy making or politics or education or management, or even doing research and development for any sort of private firm. Our sociology track looks at the study of social life and social change and consequences of human behavior. We investigate something as small as, small group behavior, but we also look at how organizations and societies and people interact within various contexts. Our BA in sociology, once again, does a small scale human action, and all the way to looking at things like social movements and big major social changes. And then we also provide you with the kind of knowledge and practical research-based methods and skills that make you employable. For criminology is the, is the study of lawmaking, lawbreaking, and responses to crime. And we look at things all the way from policing, courts, and corrections to the questions of why do people commit crime? We don't do that much with crime scene investigation skills, although we have had students go on and do forensic profiling. We hope that one of the things that we would say if you were interested in that is to double major with something that would bring in a more biological or psychological aspect to your education. But we provide you on the education of why the system works the way it does. And many of our graduates then go into careers around crime law and justice, whether that's advocacy work, nonprofit work, or going on to law school. I provided a link here, which I can forward to any of you, or you can copy here about the Criminology Project from the American Society of Criminology, which is our major national organization of criminologists. And then I provided you samples of slides you might see in your classes, all the way from thinking about Ted Bundy, who is a sort of famous serial killer who actually did commit crimes in the state of Colorado, as well as various other places around the country, all the way to looking at courts and then images of policing and images of corrections. And I myself actually teach a course called Murder in America, where I do a section on serial killers. So I think and my students repeatedly, like Ted Bundy, I think there's been a resurrection of Ted Bundy tapes and interest in him. So that's why I grabbed that clip. Here's a sample of some other classes, though, beyond that. We have, on the sociology side, current social problems. We have focuses on race and ethnicity, youth, self, schooling, looking at particularly sexualities and masculinities. We have a professor who focuses on immigration and Latinas in American society. We have other faculty who are experts in gender, some faculty who look at sociology of food, which is a pretty interesting class, and health, and then also thinking of things around work and religion and hope. On the criminology side, we have classes as to why people break the law all the way to responding to it. Some of those are crime and inequality or the sociology of law. Discipline and punishment would be more of a corrections course. I myself do things with drugs in society and gender and crime. I teach the female offender, although I don't like the title of that class. I wish it was more just gender and crime. Looking at juvenile delinquency and kids in courts right now, our faculty who teaches that also runs a program for juveniles who are system impacted with the juvenile justice system, and she works to help them truncate their criminal pathways and pretty much works in the field counseling them. And then she also brings that experience into the classroom, and students have that kind of opportunity to get to know the very people that she works with. We also have classes that focus on the death penalty, which is capital punishment, my class, drugs and society, and then looking at how the media treats crime. Many of us became interested in criminology because of the influx of not just our law and crime shows that have been pretty popular since the 80s, but also podcasts and true crime and everything else has really increased our interest. And so we need to think critically as to what the media is showing us with that. And then we have classes on what's going on in prison labor, and how can we do reform. And so this is just a sample of the few classes that we have. In thinking about this, many students ask if you should, can you double major? And the answer is it's very easy to double major when you're at DU, but it depends on which track you want to do. For example, for anybody that wants to work maybe more with the police or doing crime scene, I usually suggest psychology or biology as a double major. If you wanted to go to law school, I would suggest something like socio-legal studies, political science, and law schools really like English majors because you're going to read and write a lot. I also would include something with digital studies or computer science because that's a growing field within criminology, as far as how we respond to those types of crimes. There's always openings for people that can understand the sort of constantly evolving and movement in that area and how people commit crime with it. So I think that that's also a good partner as far as a double major. Other things that our department offers are around research assistantships. For example, one of my research projects is in a surrounding county in what we call drug court. And drug court is a treatment-oriented court. It's very intensive supervision, but it is community supervision. People are not in prison. But if they fail out of this treatment-based court option, then they will be on their way to prison. So it's kind of a last stop before incarceration. And I've been at drug court for many years now. I bring students in with research assistants so you can see behind the scenes how judges and other staff and treatment providers make decisions about the people who are participating in court, and then also get to know those participants and the pathways to drug dependency and crime and the difficulties in engaging treatment and getting out of these cycles. Other research assistantships that have been available have been around criminal justice reform, mass incarceration, understanding prison labor. As you can see, these classes kind of tie you to interests that you could do research with. And then capital punishment and working on things like the Innocence Project, which is a not-for-profit that exonerates people who've been wrongfully convicted. We also offer teaching assistantships or graders, mostly in our 100-person classes, which is understanding social life. So most of our classes are really small. We keep them under 30 students for the most part, except the big lecture classes that we offer to the university as part of common curriculum. So understanding social life in the sociology world and criminology in the criminology side are our big 100-person classes, but everything else is 30 and under or 20 and under, because one of the things we really want to do is get to know our students and work with you and work with your interests to see what you'd like to do. And so when it comes though to the 100-person class, we do offer some teaching assistantships, and if that is something that you'd be interested in, especially if you want to go on to grad school or end up in the education field. We also pipeline to other advanced degree programs at DU. We're currently in the works of possibly doing a 4+1 program, but that's not launched quite yet. Other things that our students have expressed interest in completing graduate work here before they go on, before they graduate, right? To graduate with that MA is in public policy. Several of our students have gone on to graduate school of social work. And then Stern College of Law is another kind of pipeline from criminology onward. We also really hope to develop a professionalization experience with our students, and we have expanded our internship program pretty much that to the point where any major who has a 3.3 or higher could take an internship in instead of taking an elective. And you do need to take 5 electives before you graduate with your major. So one of your internships an internship could serve as one of those electives. And so we have placed students all over in doing internships. Some of them have worked in nonprofits. I've given you an example here, such as working with the Innocence Project. One of our students actually was employed by the Innocence Project right after completing her internship. So she's in the Bay Area doing pretty interesting work in the state of California around wrongful convictions. Things around adoption exchange. Judy's House is a nonprofit that does counseling for kids who have experienced the death of a sibling or a parent. We've had Harm Reduction Action Center, which is in Denver, and it's a center that's trying to reduce overdose deaths in Denver, and they kind of help people with education, doing syringe exchange so that to try to truncate the spread of disease. And we've had students volunteer there and do internships. And then the Rocky Mountain Crisis Center is also one where students can do suicide prevention hotlines and other crisis work. And these internships are pretty intensive, but they also sort of complement the education that you receive in the classroom. On the criminology side, we definitely place students with our Denver Police Department, our surrounding police, if that is something you're interested in. We've also had internships with Secret Service, FBI, probation, alcohol, tobacco, firearms, and explosives, as well as district court. Many of our DAs have pulled from our students who are interested in being lawyers and employ them in the summer, or I should say place them as interns in the summer to do investigative work with the DA's office. And some of them have actually asked for work in cold case units and doing CSI work, which is actually more boring than you think, by the way, but doing that kind of work as well. So on the criminology side, even if it's that you just want to get to know the system more, more because you want to do reform work to make it a fair and more just system, it can be a really good hands-on experience. And then some of our students complement their degrees with political science, and they plan on using this education to go into politics. And so we place them in other government offices, whether it's the governor's office, through various legislative aides, as I should say aides working at the state capitol, and then our Colorado Department of Transportation always offers paid internships. I can't tell you why that is, but they always do. And it's a really interesting experience getting behind the scenes on our transportation system here. And once again, anyone that's qualifying at 3.3 GPA or higher is eligible to do this kind of internship. And we work with you to find a placement that works and to make sure that it's a really fruitful experience. But other things to think about with your degree beyond completing it with our intro, methods, theory, and various electives that you need to do to complete the major is to think that, at one moment, Alondra Nelson is head of Office of Science and Technology, and she is actually a sociologist. So a lot of our students will go on to graduate school in either discipline, and we can be very helpful with that. Some of our students have gone on to actually work in the criminal justice system or do social work. Many of our students have found that working for private research firms is a big opportunity. And doing data analysis, because you have such intensive methods training, is a great segue out of once you graduate. Also doing focus group research. We have found that the various private industries really like sociologists because we know how to kind of capture a group. We teach you how to interview them and analyze the results, as well as being able to write up a report. I teach my students how to write a white paper, which is a very brief research report, and it's a handy skill to use if that is the kind of occupation you want to go into. And that can be for whatever private firm you might want. Then there's plenty of advocacy and not-for-profit work and policy work that our students really like to be able to go into. And usually that is kind of an offshoot from an internship experience. And the overall skill set that you get from either major is around critical thinking skills, writing and oral presentation skills. And even for those of us, although we're always accommodating for people that are really sort of unable to do oral presentations, but still that's a skill if you so choose that you can refine. And then we teach you both quantitative and qualitative social science methods. Quantitative is more statistics, surveys, and qualitative would be in the field work where you're doing things that we call ethnographies, where you're kind of in the experience, but learning how to interview, learning the focus group, learning to do content analysis, if you were going to be a media contact kind of specialist. And those are the things that you walk away with from this degree. So once again, thank you for your interest in this major, and I promise to stop at the 20-minute mark. So thank you once again as your interest. Here is my email address, as well as if you're on campus, I'm in the Stern building, which is not the beautiful law school, but the building across from it. And you can come visit me and we can discuss more. We're not that big of a department. We have about 14 faculty, and but we like to keep it that way as far as we have faculty that are interested in a variety of things. I'm really proud of the accomplishments our faculty have. Many of us are national experts, but we still, no matter what, make sure that we get to know our students and give you that kind of hands-on experience. So once again, email me or check out our website, and I'll open it up now. I can see that there's a few questions for anybody that, if I can expand on anything for anyone.
So Lisa, thank you so much for your time this evening, and let's go ahead and dive into these questions. Why don't you go ahead, Lisa, read through them, answer them, and I'll go ahead and mark them as answered as we go through each of them.
Okay, so this is a great question, Samantha. Is there a certain year that you have to do these internships or research programs? We do want you to complete some curriculum. You can't just kind of jump into it. So we do expect you to be at least a third year. We'd like that. But we're also kind of accommodating to anyone that if you have an opportunity that comes earlier, or if it's an internship, you want to kind of finish up your degree with an internship, we're fine. But basically around your third year at DU, you should if you want an internship, you should be thinking about that and leaving that sort of space on your electives so that you do it for credit during the quarter system. Okay, let's see. Hang on. If I would like to double major, would I apply for that additional major during my sophomore year? Can I start double majoring your freshman year? You can declare. It's really easy. You can just do it right off the bat if you'd like. If you're on the pathway of psychology and you want to double major in sociology criminology, it's easy enough. Once you get here, just express your interest in it and we'll get you signed up. So you don't need to wait on any of those double majors. So AP scores from one of the questions in the chat is about AP scores from high school count towards these. It depends. So if you have AP credit from a course that's similar to what we teach, then you would work with our advisor to see if that works for either an elective or we still want you to take criminology because that's our foundational class, but it's possible that if you had AP credit that it could work. It would just be, we need to see what you did and see if it matches sort of what we teach in electives. So I'm not going to say a definite yes or no to that one, but it is a possibility. It is not hard at all for criminology students to find internships. In fact, we have more internships than students who want to take them right now. Including the ones that I listed with the federal government. So there's a big push for hiring on the federal level. Not that I'm suggesting anybody becomes a federal agent, but for criminology, absolutely not. There are tons of advocacy, justice, nonprofits, direct service organizations, law firms, I mean, whatever you want. And like I said, we're kind of in a position where people are asking us more than we have students available who can do them. So for a criminal, one of the differences, the opportunities change between having a criminology as a major or as a minor. If you were interested in doing internships, we only work with majors on that. For a minor, you're basically focused on the foundational course criminology and some electives. For a major, you dive deeper into theory, and then you also take our method sequence. So you would not have that training and would not have that education if you were only a minor. Study abroad programs for criminology. Okay, that's a great question. So I'll tell you, the two that I like, that I've seen the best experiences from my students are New Zealand and South Africa, which your parents probably are not going to like, that I would suggest you go to kind of the furthest place away from them. But New Zealand and Australia, the British criminology, New Zealand and Australia criminology, and US were kind of the top places for criminology in the world. With the US, we actually birthed the field of criminology out of the University of Chicago about 100 years ago. And because we have so much crime, we're also really good at analyzing it. But these two places, and so of course you can always go to anywhere in Great Britain and study criminology, but the experience you would get in New Zealand or Australia would bring you into areas we don't teach around restorative justice, and what they use the language around Aboriginal justice. And same with South Africa, of thinking about justice initiatives and criminal justice post-apartheid. And you will not get that. You're not going to get that from DU because we don't live there and we don't really do those kind of topics here. So it would really enhance your education if you went there and studied those programs. And so that would be the recommended areas. But honestly, even my criminology students who go to Ireland or what have you, which doesn't have nearly as much crime as us, they have a great experience with learning sort of history of crime and what have you there. You do not need a double major to do any of our internship programs. You just need to major with us. So you don't need a double major, but I recommend that students do, because on a quarter system, you're taking quite a few different courses, and you'll find that you end up pooling them into sort of two different areas anyways. So it makes sense to have two majors, but you do not need them to intern, even at somewhere like the Innocence Project, which the one here, I believe, is run out of Boulder. But we also do Innocence Project Worth closer in Denver. Post-graduation, is it easy to find jobs in the Denver area? I can be more helpful in that kind of job placement or job recommendations in Denver than I can if you're not in the Denver area. I have not had students have difficulty, but I do have to say that if you think working in the criminal justice field, whether it's at a local jurisdiction level or a federal level, does take time from application to employment, especially on the federal level. This is just something to think about if any of you want to do that. It can be 18 months or longer before you apply to being approved, and then you have to go to an academy. And this is why they always recommend to apply for that shortly before you're graduating, because you can put in your application 6 months before graduation. And they suggest working on an MA before, as your application's being reviewed, because that way, when you if you're completing an MA, you'll be completing it right when the application would be about to be approved. And your pay structure is not based in what your degree is, just what level it is. So you would automatically start at a higher salary. And so I recommend to students that if you really, really think about doing any kind of federal agency work, and it's an open application to all of them, kind of, that if you've done an internship on a federal level, would that speed up the process? It would help you get to know people. That the question from an anonymous attendee is that if you did an internship with the feds, could that speed up the process? Well, you would get to know the internship people that can help you move that application. They actually hire people to help move applications through more quickly. And if you interned with them, I think you would be more on the in for that. So it's I don't know. You're asking me if the federal government can speed up? Probably not. I'm thinking maybe no, I wouldn't want to promise that. But I think the internship gives you a kind of hands-on experience to see if you'd like it. I've had positive experiences with those kind of internships. My students have found them fascinating. It can also churn you off of that work. So I actually think it's a good idea to get your feet wet in that way. But once again, to do this, it's a kind of a long-term process. And so you kind of have to think pretty early on. I would say by at least the beginning of your third year, if that's the kind of placement that you would like. Okay, I don't see any more open questions, but I'm certainly open to answering. Oh, here's another one. So if I could just major in criminology, no double major. Yes, exactly. That's fine. You could just major in criminology, have a minor, do whatever else you want to do with your other coursework. As long as you're a major in criminology, then we can work with you as far as internships and work with you at these placements. You just have to be one of our majors. In fact, we kind of are that way at DU anyway, is that when we advise you on our major. I mean, we look obviously at the other sort of areas of completion, but we care about you, like we focus on you and what we're doing for you. So the answer would be very much, if you were majoring in criminology and you wanted to intern that way, for sure we could help you out. Any other questions? Okay, great. Thank you,
Perfect timing.
everybody. I'm
Yes.
trying, yeah, kind of got that right in under the wire. And so once again, email me if there's anyone else, if I can help you out in any other way, let me know.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Lisa. And thank you all for our viewers for tuning in this evening. We hope that this session was super helpful for you all. I know it's helpful for me, even as Lisa's colleague, to just know of all the amazing opportunities that both our departments in sociology and criminology have to offer. We did get another great question that wasn't necessarily program specific, but just general for the virtual sessions about when these recordings will be made available. So we're getting those all gathered, curated, probably get those out to you within the next week or so. And then they'll also be made available on DU Undergraduate Admissions YouTube page. We have our own library as well, and a link to that library on our main visit page when you go to our visit website as well too. So we'll, in short, be in touch with these follow-up resources, and they'll be made available on YouTube. So thank you again, Lisa, for your time, and we appreciate you all as well too, and hope you all have a great rest of your evening. Take care.